From the Family Support Expo in Toronto, Canada, it's The Smart Divorce on Divorce Source Radio. I'm Steve Peck with Deborah Moskovitch. It's great to be here, and Stephen Rosenfield has done an amazing job with the show.
The Family Support Expo is, I think, something that everyone should come to, because you don't need to be separated or divorced to get a benefit from this program. It's addressing so many issues in society: elder care and mental health and mental wellness. And mental health and mental wellness issues permeate across everything. I mean, it contributes to separation and divorce. Elder care issues, again, like, if you are younger and have older parents that you need to take care of, that sandwich generation, like, what happens? There's so many things here for so many different aspects of life that I think it's critical that everybody come.
I think it was smart of Steve, because he recognized that there's more. There is that mental side of this. Not sure which comes first, right? Because it could be either way. You might have a mental issue when you're going into a marriage.
Absolutely.
Maybe just something like depression or ADHD or something like that, and that could play a role in your divorce, or something happens after. I mean, how many people get divorced and they find themselves in a state of depression?
Well, and not only that, you look at personality disorder. And I was at a conference, and I've talked about this before, my association with my membership and being on the board of Association of Family and Conciliation Courts. But yesterday was an unbelievable conference that I attended. And the morning session looked at mental health issues and the impact on divorce. And I think that when you look at someone who's borderline personality disorder, or someone who's narcissistic, you kind of overlook some of those personality, for lack of a better word, flaws. Mm-hmm. But when you're going through divorce, how does that impact you? Contributing to the depression, contributing to the conflict. There's so much that you need to think about. And that's why I'm thrilled to have our guest, Mike Mira.
Hey, Mike.
Who I actually met yesterday at the AFCC conference through Justice Brownstone. I think what Mike is doing is so... it's giving back to society as well as being a great lawyer. He has a business, a company called
Support Information Exchange.
And tell our listeners a little bit about it.
Well, divorce is hard, and there's so much stress, and there's so much difficulty in getting the case settled and getting the kids on their way. And our system really hasn't recognized the fact that people don't really want to talk about money after they separated. Money's a touchy topic when you're living together in a happy marriage. Afterwards, you don't want to talk about money. But all across North America, there's child support guideline regimes in place, and they all require continual re-engagement of the separated parents over money. You have to exchange your income tax returns, calculate your support. You have to provide receipts and invoices for your kids' special expenses, or Section 7 expenses, they call them in Canada, or add-ons in the States.
Or extraordinary expenses.
Yeah, extraordinary expenses. And, back in the pre-guideline era, when we used to settle a support case or a separation, we would figure out the support. We'd add a cost of living or indexing clause, and the parents wouldn't ever have to have any involvement with each other over finances again. But now they have to be constantly in communication over money because of the way the child support laws are set up.
Right. So let's just step back a little bit to help our listeners understand the child support issue. So the child support issue is within the separation agreement. You agree or sometimes disagree what each party is going to be paying the other party for supporting the children, right?
Right. I mean, there's guidelines in place that are usually based upon the income of the parents. If it's not a shared parenting arrangement, then it's based on the income of the payer, the non-custodial parent, and income changes every year. In our economies, income is always fluctuating, so you constantly are having to readjust based upon the guidelines in accordance with the income.
Right. So we invite everybody to share. Oh, there's so much going on here.
It's the fun of doing a live show.
It's a happening place. So then you based on the guidelines, there's an agreement in place in terms of what the payer has to pay, the recipient gets, and all that kind of stuff. And then in an ideal world, you hope that the parent that has to pay provide checks on a timely basis, and everybody goes away relatively happy because the children's needs are met. But what you do, and I think is really fascinating, is what happens when that doesn't happen. Now, I know here in Ontario we have what's called FRO, and we have these resources across Canada and also within the U.S. that when you're expecting to have some kind of payment issues with your partner or your co-parent, you file with the government resource, right?
Yeah,
you file with a government agency.
There's state enforcement agencies in every jurisdiction in Canada and the U.S. and across the Western world.
So that's what we're talking about here, are these enforcement agencies. So what happens when you file with the enforcement agency and you still don't get your payment? Then you turn to Mike.
Well, yeah, then you have to figure out a way to either push the enforcement agency to do their job, and in government, with the economies that we have today, I mean, these agencies are overtaxed. If you're a support recipient, then you could withdraw from the program and hire somebody like me to do the enforcement, but that's costing you money that you shouldn't have to be spending. It should be going to your kids.
Right.
If you're a support payer, then you need, usually the reason the support payer is behind, the majority of the cases that I've dealt with over the past 30 years, is because there's been some economic changes, and they have to go back to court or go back to the other parent and make a new arrangement based upon full financial disclosure and details about why their income has changed.
Which people really hate to give.
People don't want to interchange over money after they've separated. They just don't. And the problem with most of the cases that are in default is that people have just put their head in the sand. Things have changed, but they haven't dealt with it. And the real problem is, in all these jurisdictions, is that people need to make timely disclosure of their finances.
Okay, so tell us how you do that through your website. I think it's so fabulous.
Yeah, I recognize that it doesn't matter what the income level of these separated parents were, people just aren't disclosing because they don't want to. It's a disclosure-resistant mindset based on the fact that, hey, we're separated. Why should you see my income? In order to deal with that, technology is the answer, and we developed a very simple website. It's called supportinformationexchange.com, or in short, your6.ca, yoursix.ca. And the wow, it's rowdy here.
Isn't it? There's a lot of action happening. But the best action's happening right here at Divorce Source Radio on the Smart Divorce.
Yes. The separated parent, all they have to do is go on the site. The fee is $50 a year, and you can load your income tax return, your pay stub, your T4 slip, your kids' expenses up from your computer or from your smartphone. A permanent ledger records the date you put the document in, saves the document in an encrypted cloud-based format, and sends an automatic email out to the other parent to say, your co-parent has filed his income tax return with the Support Information Exchange. You can just log in, look at the document, and you have full disclosure right there. There's no more arguing about what was provided, when it was provided, or if it was provided. A support recipient can email an orthodontic bill or a hockey school or summer camp bill from her smartphone right into the exchange. No more arguing about whether or not it's been received. It's all recorded, it's organized, and it's all in one neat place for you to look at in the future. Your mediator can look at it very simply. You can get rid of all the expense of assembling documents. Your lawyer, if you're involving lawyers, can look at it immediately. It's just a really simple system using modern technology to take the dialogue out of the support obligations that exist for people.
You know what I love about this? It cuts down on conflict. It cuts down on having to talk to your co-parent about finances, which can cause more problem. And for $50 a year, I mean, what is that in the scheme of things? It's nothing.
Well, it saves so much. People come into my office now. I do support payment cases in my law practice, and we spend thousands of dollars in some cases just trying to get them organized because they don't bring in all the paperwork. They don't know where it is. Then the other side's looking for more. It's just a nightmare for the public, and they don't really know that they just need. People want to comply. They want to do the right thing, but they don't have the tools to do that. So we've provided them with a very simple tool so they can be organized. It'll save them money, and you're right, Deborah, it'll save conflict. There's no doubt that there's all kinds of social science reports and studies out there that finances cause stress. And if people are having to re-engage after they've been separated about money and get involving the legal system, that causes stress, and it affects the kids in the family.
Right. Couples divorce, they don't divorce their children. But when they're divorced from each other, that's the last thing they want to talk about is money.
But, it's one of the reasons why when I divorced, I really didn't want to have to make that spousal support payment every single month as a reminder. So I cut a deal in mediation where I gave away a company in lieu of spousal support. But it is one of the things that people really do get upset about after a divorce, isn't it, Deborah? It's the writing of that check, the reminder of the divorce every single month.
And you know what? That's really interesting that you say that, because I coach a lot of my clients that when they're thinking about, and now I don't offer legal advice, I don't offer therapeutic advice, but one of the things that I help people think about is how to have this happier and healthier future post-divorce. And when they're talking to their lawyer, what about that lump sum payment? Now, in some cases, it's not the right thing, but in other cases, it helps with the emotionally letting go. Right? Yes, I agree. You don't want to be writing that check every month when your divorce is like long over. Mm-hmm. But child support is something that's very different. And I think that the service that you're offering, which actually I want to let our listeners know, it's not just in Toronto. It's not just an Ontario-based thing. You can use this fabulous resource anywhere across North America.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, great.
It's based on every jurisdiction is struggling with the fact that the separated parents aren't handling this ongoing disclosure of income and expenses. So this works everywhere where there's a guideline system in place, which is every jurisdiction in the Western world.
I'm sorry. Well, I just wanted him to walk us through the process of what someone would do to get online with this. This is an online-based system?
Yes. It's not a downloadable software. It's simply an online. You go onto the website, you sign up. It's as easy as online shopping. Easier, probably.
All secure.
And you sign up, Visa, automatic from your bank account, whatever way you want to do it, and you get a password and a username, and you log in, and you can start putting your documents in. And immediately you're organized. You've provided the documents to your co-parent, and they can engage and start putting their documents in. If you get laid off from your job, you can immediately notify your ex that you got laid off and give a copy of the layoff notice through the site. I think that if people disclose and they're up to date in their information in real time, there's going to be less disputes. Mm-hmm. Their expectations are going to adjust. It's just the same way as if you were still together. And you come home from work and you say, well, my hours are getting cut back. Well, the homemaker, the recipient who is managing the finances and all the expenses for the kids, she starts thinking, okay, it looks like we're going to have to cut back and we're going to make some adjustments. And that starts happening that very day. Well, when you're separated and you don't disclose and you don't share information, you don't talk to each other, then you might not know that there's been a pay cut for a year in our system. So then the money's already been spent. You're getting kind of blindsided with somebody asking they want to reduce their support by, thousands of dollars because they had a pay cut. You get into arrears, then you get into the problem with the support enforcement agencies, and you get all kinds of destructive things happening there. So these things snowball. Then all of a sudden you're into having lawyers. All that money can go to the kids rather than to my firm.
Which is where it should go, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's child support. It's supposed to be easy. And the system seems easy, but it's not, because the people they're not communicating, they're not disclosing. They need to disclose in real time. That'll reduce the disputes. Our courts in Ontario are backed up with people on these support change cases, and that experience is continent-wide. And the big problem for the backup is that the people, when they get to court, they're not organized. They don't have all their information together. The court can't make an assessment about how much should be paid, when the change should occur, what kind of adjustments should be made to the kids' expenses, because the people aren't organized with their documents. Mm-hmm. It's very simple, but it's It's just not simple the way in which people are handling it.
And full disclosure, Mike understands the process because he worked in the system. He worked for the government.
Yeah.
We can talk about that.
I was involved in the startup of the Ontario Enforcement Agency 25 years ago. I left practice, became part of the implementation team, and that system, in theory, is great because it takes away the old burden of trying to collect the money for the support recipients. When I was in private practice before the system existed, we would settle the file or we would get a court order, and then the next month I'd get a call from my support recipient client saying, he hasn't paid me. It's Friday, he's coming to pick the kids up and he hasn't paid me. Should I keep the kids and not let him have the kids unless he pays me? And it's like these crises were occurring on Friday afternoons when I didn't even want to be in the office. Mm-hmm. And so we all welcomed the government stepping in, and as they've done in virtually every jurisdiction, so that they would take over the responsibility of collecting the money. And the idea was that'll separate the money from the family dynamic.
Yeah.
And as long as the money gets paid, that's great. It's a good system. But when the money's not paid, then the thing breaks down. In all the work I did for them over the years, and I haven't done work for them for about 10 years now, but I did work for the government as a client for probably 15 years. Of all the cases they were dealing with, I would say 2% are the type of cases where they really needed strong legal representation, where the support payer was hiding out. He was a willful defaulter. He was refusing to pay, transferring assets, quitting jobs when they catch up with him. That kind of guy, and I say guy because that was the majority, and that is where the government resources for collection and legal should be allocated. The rest of the people, they're in arrears because of circumstances, unfortunate difficulties. Maybe they never have had a good track record in keeping a job. When they made their settlement, they were hopeful they could keep a job, and then they lost the job, poor education, so on and so forth. Those people, they just need to have a system so that they're constantly readjusting their support payments. Because, in Ontario, for example, it's like this in most jurisdictions, once you get into arrears, the government can take strong action. They can take your driver's license, they can take your passport, they can seize your bank accounts, they can put you in jail.
This is for child support.
Yeah.
For child support, yes. And if you've lost your job and your unemployment is run out, but you haven't gone back to change your court order, the government's still trying to collect the original amount of the court order because their duty is to collect that order. So the support payer who loses a job, gets laid off, he needs to get back into court quickly in order to get that order changed so these strong actions don't happen against him. And the only way you can get back into court quickly is to have been making your full disclosure.
See, and I think that's why your program is so important. We know from statistics that children who don't receive their child support, or poverty is huge in divorce. And for these kids that grow up without the money, don't get the opportunities that kids do that have both parents living at home. They don't get the education. There's so many resources that they're missing out on. So I think that you're offering like an incredible service. Just one other point that I think is important for people to understand, because I went through this myself, and so I really understand. So you can't tie both seeing your kids with not getting payment. So I know people will say, I didn't get my child support this month, you're not seeing the kids. Kids have a right to see both parents all the time. That's their right. So as a parent who's not getting their child support, you can't say you're not seeing your kids this month until you pay me. So I think working with a service like this really helps diffuse that conflict.
Yeah, it separates it out. And it gives them both a tool to work with so that if they actively manage, one of the problems we have in the legal profession is that we need to provide leadership to our clients. And one of the ways that we're not doing a very good job is by getting them into a cultural mind shift so that when they recognize that when they separate, one of the things they're going to have to do if they have kids is, for as long as those kids are dependent until they're done school, you have to be constantly disclosing your income and your expenses that relate to the kids. And if you do that, and if you get that as part of your mindset, like wearing a seatbelt, it's just what you do when you're separated is you disclose. That way, the two of you, even though you never talk, you can manage these issues through this one simple online platform. You can manage this from your phone. And that's going to reduce disputes. It's going to make everybody have realistic expectations. If you did have to go into a legal process, the issue is going to be so narrow because all of the disclosure is all going to be there, and it's going to be so focused. You're going to be able to get in and out much more efficiently and painlessly than the people are doing now.
And you don't have to be a computer techie. I mean,
No.
Steve, you know me. You know how bad I am on the computer. Oh my God.
How do you cross-check this, though? Let's say the guy goes on, he says he's lost his job or he's been cut back. How do you know that's really the case?
Well, he's got to put the document in, because this is not a dialogue system. This is a document disclosure exchange. So he's going to load his document in that comes from his employer that says he's been laid off for these reasons. He's going to put in his employment insurance stubs as soon as he gets those. So you're going to get the same kind of disclosure that you would be requiring if you were in a court-based process.
Okay, what about the issue of someone who's deliberately underemployed or deliberately unemployed and not looking for employment now in an effort to get out of paying their child support?
And does that happen more or as much with child support as it does with spousal? We know it happens with spousal support, but you think that when God, you wouldn't do it to your kids, would you?
It happens. It happens. And these are the issues. At least you can focus on what the real issue is that you'd have to have a mediator or an arbitrator or a judge make a ruling on. If you've got the disclosure and the husband has, or the father has incomes dropped from $85,000 to $45,000, and the recipient says, well, I know that he's doing construction work for cash with his new girlfriend's father's company. I know it. I see him out there. I see him leaving in the morning. Here he's leaving, but it just doesn't add up. Well, the first step to get into having that issue dealt with is to have all the disclosure. He's put it on the record. My income's $45,000.
I love this.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah.
And the recipient says, well, we got all your historical disclosure, and it was consistently going up, and it reached the point of $85,000, and then just for some reason it dropped to $45,000. So you've got to provide an explanation. You've got to be able to convince me, a mediator, an arbitrator, or a judge that there's a reason for your income having dropped all of a sudden.
And you are doing that contract work because I've seen it, and you've got a six-pack now. You look very fit.
Yeah,
I thought you meant another six-pack.
No.
Oh, okay.
There's no medical reports that have come in either, right? So
yeah.
By having the disclosure there, you've got the case. It's been drilled down to the one issue, and that saves people thousands of dollars on both sides of the coin. I mean, you can then just get it right down to the drilled down point of, do we accept the fact that you've done everything you can to maintain that $85,000 income?
What about for those that don't have conflict? How valuable is your system?
It's incredible because in some jurisdictions they have recalculation systems. In Canada, Alberta, and Manitoba have recalculation systems. Those recalculation systems will provide change in the support once you've provided the disclosure.
Oh.
So you got to provide the disclosure first. In Ontario, we don't have a recalculation system at all. It's up to the parties to make a new agreement or go to court and file a consent for a new order. So if your order is being enforced through the support agency, you got to change the order to change the payment that they're collecting.
Right.
So in order to do that, you have to go to court with a consent from the other side in writing, changing the terms of the existing order. And in order to do that, you got to have the financial disclosure. The financial disclosure is the key to the whole system.
And so your program's going to cut down on legal expenses dramatically. I love it. Once again, how do people find it?
Easiest one is
You know who's causing this problem here? It's Kevin from Breakfast Television.
Kevin Frankish, who I'm going to be interviewed by tomorrow. I'm on a panel.
He's doing something at another part of the show, and sorry about that, but the website again?
supportinformationexchange.com.
All right, great. For anyone in Canada or the U.S.?
Anywhere.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deborah. There we go. Hey, our first show in person.
Live
That's
from the
awesome.
Family Support Expo.
Thanks.
I can feel the love here between the two of you, that's for sure.
That's why we're so far apart, you know? They seated us this far so we wouldn't just be hugging in the whole show.
Exactly.
Anyway, thanks for being on The Smart Divorce, and I'll do another show with you soon, Deborah.
For sure.
As always, I hope the program helped you. If you have a comment or question you'd like to ask us, we'd love to hear from you. You can leave us a voicemail on our listener line at area code 248-686-2256. Or drop us an email with your question or comment to divorcesourceradio@gmail.com. New programs are available every week on divorcesourceradio.com, as well as iTunes, BlackBerry, Stitcher, and all over the web. If you'd like to be notified when new programs are available, you can follow us on Twitter. Our follow word is Divorce Source. Also, if you're not listening from our website, I invite you to stop by divorcesourceradio.com, where you'll find a complete program archive. If you're looking for a specific subject, simply type it into our search engine, and chances are you'll find what you're looking for. We also have other resources available at our website as well. And while you're on our website, click on the Facebook icon and join the growing Divorce Source Radio Facebook community. Thanks for listening. Until next time, make it a great week and stay healthy. I'm Steve Peck.